Hello, Fierce Factor. Welcome to this amazing episode. I have been waiting and patiently awaiting this interview with my dear friend, client, colleague, and somebody who I have so much admiration for, Lauren Timpe. She's the owner, founder, and CEO extraordinaire of OmniAesthetic Facial Aesthetics in Orange County. Lauren, thanks so much for joining me today. So excited to see your beautiful face.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. That introduction will give somebody a complex. Wow. Thank you so much.
You're so funny.
In the best way.
No, they'll get the complex when they hear what you have accomplished over the past few years. But let's start off. I would love for, instead of everybody hearing me, go on and on, right? You're here because you have such an incredible story. I would love for you to just, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your kind of journey and your business, OmniAesthetic.
Okay, just clicking into some of my notes here. So yes, I am Lauren Timpe. I am the founder of OmniAesthetic. I co-own this really beautiful aesthetic space with my husband, Dr. Jorge Castellanos. I have been a nurse for over 11 years now, which is pretty crazy to say, because I feel like some days I'm still just like barely jumping into this really amazing profession that kind of fell on my lap. I've been in aesthetics now for almost 5 years, and that's flown by. So I guess it's really true what they say, that time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
I out nursing. I actually wanted to be an OB-GYN nurse. I love women's health. And then at the time that I graduated from nursing school, there was a hiring freeze. So when I submitted my applications to nearby hospitals, Cedars-Sinai and Beverly Hills got back to me and they said, yeah, we'll hire you, but you're going to be a cardiac nurse. Hated cardiac. And I was like, no, but I suppose it was serendipitous since I'm now married to a cardiologist.
Yeah. Now, did you guys meet then?
Yes, we met on the unit over a code, actually. So very Grey's Anatomy.
That is amazing.
And if you ask for George's take on this, I'm just going to tell everyone right now, it is completely confabulated and not true. His version of the story, but it's funny to listen to. And yeah, we've been together since it was my first day in the ICU and it was his last day. So we happened to just cross paths. And I did cardiac intensive care with Cedars for 6.5 years. I climbed the ladder there pretty quickly. I was a part of their quite a few administrative councils. I was a charge nurse. I was being groomed for a management position, which I felt like at the time I was really interested in because I was very curious about administration. And then George and I got married and he was offered an attending position at Hoag in Newport Beach. And so we chose to relocate from LA, which was also beneficial since I was pregnant with my first daughter and all my family's back in OC. So for me, it was a homecoming to come back.
Nice.
Yeah. After my first daughter, I went back to the bedside again. And after my second daughter, I said, I don't want to do this. I don't like being gone for 13-hour shifts. I want something that's going to give me a little bit more flexible. I've always had an entrepreneurial, I think the creativity there and just I guess wanting for something a little bit more that, just to push myself, to challenge myself.
My dad, the challenge. Yes. Because I know you. Yeah. Yeah.
And had his own company for a long time. And so I thought, well, I had gotten exposed to skincare when I was up in Los Angeles by a really good friend of mine and actually had a chance to work with a really world-renowned plastic surgeon up there for a little bit, which gave me a really positive exposure to aesthetics. And so I remember one day saying to George, I think I want to go into skin. And George is equally as entrepreneurial and loves a challenge. So we went for it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So then you started, so when you say you went for it, like then what happened? So you started a concierge style of business. So what was that like? And how did you find clients?
Yeah, Concierge was very like, I had a lot of feedback that was very positive about it because it was novel. And then I had a lot of feedback, I would say an equal amount of feedback that was very negative because people thought that it was, essentially like it was unclean of me to be offering these treatments in home. And I remember quite a few, physician colleagues being like, what are you thinking? And the world of aesthetics just gets smaller and smaller the longer you're in it. It's like everyone you realize is either dabbling in this themselves or has had some type of experience in it or is trying to break through in it also. And the reason why I decided on Concierge was because my mom is Vietnamese, and in Vietnam, everything goes to your house. So when we go there and vacation and stay there,
interesting.
Your food comes to your house. The nail lady comes to your house. The hairdresser comes to your house. And that's just normal lifestyle. And very convenient. So I thought, after having 2 kids, I'm thinking how I can barely even get out to get my nails done. How does someone go get, their Botox or their facials or what have you? And so that's where the idea came from, essentially. And I built my business from the ground up, mostly just referrals, still is referrals, but I have a very family. And I did solely Concierge for a year and a half before I opened the beauty bar on 6th with my sister in the Inland Empire. That was really her space, and I rented a room from her. And then I was switching over and doing half Concierge and half time there in Norco, which is North Corona, in that room. And then George really pushed me to open Orange County.
And so then you go to like one of the hottest spots, a really chic, trendy. So for those of you who don't know Southern California, it's right, like it's a border of pretty much, the biggest airport, also private airport there in Orange County. You are like nice and small, outdoor shopping, bordering Newport Beach, coastal, sort of like just a really beautiful location. And it's in a really eclectic sort of shopping experience. I don't even know how to really describe it, but what's so interesting to me is I think the idea of that, I think there are a lot of nurses who are like, oh, I want to do injectables or I want to start, getting into skin. And by the way, you're one of the only people, I will say this on the record, who I allow to touch my face, not because my face is special, but because it's complicated and you understand ethnic skin, because I look very white girl, but my dad's Samoan. And so I pigment. So that, to kind of put things full circle. And so I can see why, you have, from your experience and what your knowledge, just personal knowledge about different, ethnic skin tones, and you understand your patients, and I've referred you patients. So I understand sort of that referral business and I get that. But then to go take this big leap and say, okay, we're going to open this really beautiful, space in Orange County, what do you think? And I see the sort of ambition behind it, but it couldn't have been, seamless. And so I sort of want, to peel the onion back a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced through that process, if you're willing to share, because I think a lot of people, could get to that one point where it's me, I'm a solo provider. I have my hands on, I'm injecting to, okay, now we're going to expand and create this whole, ecosystem. What were some of the challenges transitioning as you opened up that, that space?
Yeah, Kaylee, talk about layers here. I couldn't have said it better, because looking back just, 2 years ago when I was a solo injector, I did everything. I took I scheduled all my appointments. I did all my own follow-ups. I was a one-person show. On average, I was seeing about 8 to 10 patients a day, and that was often 8 to 10 different homes. So you can imagine that that's pretty labor.
Like me in outside sales. Yeah. Making all the stops.
Driving over 20,000 miles a year, anywhere from Los Angeles County down to the Inland Empire. And, you know, while that wore on me a little bit, more than anything, I was so proud of what I had been able to build, right? And what I liked feeling was this community that I had built around OmniAPL. And when people said OmniAPL, it became, you know, it was like a known fact that they were going to get a quality service, and that I really pushed in my branding very early this need for there to be a hyper awareness of skincare, and skincare for all ethnic, all ethnicities. Since I'm a mixed background, half Vietnamese, half white, my skin got mistreated and misdiagnosed so much in my early 20s when I myself had contracted melasma. And so I was really on a quest to figure out, why do I keep getting treated wrong? Why is my pigmentation getting worse? And why is there a huge deficit amongst either mixed skin types or just types that tend to have pigmentation issues? And while we certainly haven't solved all of those problems, we do a really, really good job of that here. So essentially, when I had opened up the one room in the Inland Empire, obviously that gave me a little taste, right, of being able to service more clients in one day, being able to be in a space where I had other providers around me, although they weren't also aesthetic providers, that it was nice to talk to and have support, you know, and just to kind of have a home base. So having grown up in Orange County, I grew up in Yorba Linda, so not Newport Beach, but I knew Newport Beach really well. I really struggled with so much of the feedback that we get in aesthetics, which is like this negative connotation about Botox and fillers and skincare treatments. And so when people would hear that I had gone from the ICU to doing this, it was like step down. And I want to change.
Step down.
Yeah. Big time. It didn't even
yeah
anymore. It was that, wow, you went from saving people who were dying to now just injecting Botox, right? That was like the common response. And I think it's also because you do see a lot of, unfortunately, bad work out there, and it seems to be really dense in Newport Beach. So I felt like, since we live in Costa Mesa, and I love the diversity that Costa Mesa offers, I really wanted to be able to come in here, and again, using that word community, which was so alluring about SoCo, which is this outdoor shopping center we're in, because it pulls from all different types of people, all different demographics, ages. And, that's a part of our mission statement, is to try to modernize and change the kind of archaic thought process about what injectables are and what they do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting you to answer the question like that, but I love that you did, because the reality is, you didn't say, oh, we had so much competition and I couldn't, stand out. But essentially what I'm hearing is that our challenge was certainly finding our voice and our place here in this saturated market, because of this low barrier to entry, so many injectors, so many providers, and so much misinformation about, proper education around what this, what aesthetics is, what it can do for patients, what the right treatment modalities are. I mean, like I said, I'm the perfect example of being sort of misdiagnosed from a skin type, and I think that it's a challenging thing for a lot of people. And I think as consumers, we're at a place where we're trying to like take control of as much information we can. And so we grab whatever little snippet of we can find on Instagram, and like we become an expert, and so you're opening up this new location, and you're like, hey, we have, this really solid mission. And, I want to take the concept that I had from being, this solo provider and providing this boutique concierge experience, and be able to expand and impact more people here in this really dense geography, in this place where you could throw a stone and hit 3 other of me, right? Yeah. What would you say is the biggest mindset shift you've had to make as you've scaled your business? So now you're at, multiple locations, you have a growing team, you have multiple providers. what maybe surprised you, or what did you have to, how have you had to look at the business differently than you thought?
Yeah. So for me, Kaylee, it's been like the two B's. George and I say we always joke that we talk about these two themes, on a daily basis, but it's been balance and boundaries.
Do explain.
Yeah. So I think I'm a mom of two girls, 6.5 and 5, and I've got a third one on the way. And often people are like, oh, how do you do it? Honestly, I don't. I think like women we know how to persevere, right? Tenacity is one of our strengths. So I don't think I certainly have a blueprint for how I got. I literally kept pushing. I have really struggled finding when and when not to switch my hats. So when I need to be a mom, being a mom, and when I need to be a business owner, be a business owner. And then when I need to just be an injector, just be an injector, right? Because I'm switching between all of those really often. So that's balance. Boundaries, as we've grown, has been increasingly harder, and something that I have to modify and have a lot of introspection about on a weekly basis, because it seems like every week a new challenge comes up with this. A client will present you with a different dialogue that you've never had before. And so it's really been about teaching myself, what am I willing to take? What type of hit am I willing to take? What type of hit am I allowing my staff to take? And where are we setting up respect, a mutual respect? And then knowing when to just needing to turn things off,
Yeah, that's funny. My mom, she always said, the more you do, the more you can do, which you're like, okay, yeah, I can do more. All right. We keep pushing. Can you give an example, because, boundaries is one of like my love language words, give me an example of a boundary, that you put in place that you feel like has, by committing to and holding, let's say your patients, right, or your team accountable to that boundary, it has helped you become a better businesswoman or better at your balance, as an example.
Yeah, I would say, there's lots of options. I could go down a rabbit hole with this. I would say, our cancellation policy is one of the hardest that's been to implement, because we are so familial here. I mean, there are clients I've been seeing here for almost 5 years, I've met their kids and I know about their families, and it's really difficult to pull yourself out of that mindset when someone, doesn't follow the policy that we've implemented here, whether that's about needing to reschedule, not showing up, needing to change membership options, whatever that it may be, because there's lots of, things that we offer here. Not getting too sensitive and not taking things personal. And that, I literally just had this conversation with my staff 15 minutes ago, again, about a new situation that had arose that we hadn't dealt with before, but there needing to be set like a precedence about having respect for, our time, our practitioners' time, just like we respect all of you. We work really hard to accommodate our clients. We work really hard to work with their schedules. But there has to be a cutoff point for all of those things. So I would say that's been, but in doing that, I feel like we have been able to sift through the clients that we know are quality, who want to be here with us as much as we want to be helping them. And then that makes it feel like we're on a mutual journey, rather than feeling like you're forcing someone to be here who maybe really doesn't want to. What we do is a privilege. And, you want people to feel excited and thankful and grateful to be able to do these things, just as we feel grateful and excited to be able to provide them.
Yeah, it's so interesting because this is such a tough one, but it's almost like once you start to set a boundary, call it a policy, right? And you actually hold firm and you're disciplined with yourself and your team to that. And then you start to see it shake out in a really positive way, you sort of start to develop this, like, I don't want to say callous, because I feel like that could be a negative word, but you develop really an aptitude and a strength for, the commitments. Then, like, you start to trust yourself more. And then, hey, when we set this policy up, or we have this boundary in place, I know we're all gonna, commit to it. Right. And like, you believe that you're not going to get pushed around. And I think that's a great example of like a cancellation policy, because a lot of people deal with that. Right. And it's sort of I think the reason most people don't set boundaries and then hold themselves and their team and patients accountable to them is really from like the scarcity mindset of, I'm not going to have enough. Maybe they'll leave, right? It's this fear. Like, what if they don't like me? What if they tell other people? And when you get out of that and you set these boundaries up, I mean, you have to protect yourself. You're a mom with 3 kids and you're running, a thriving 7-figure business. Like, you don't have the time or the space to let people, book your calendar full and then not show up. That's the bottom line,
Absolutely. And I think, Kaylee, for me, when I started out being a solo provider, so many of these instances I went through on my own. George and I were just figuring them out on a case by case basis. And thank God I have him, because his experience and really just a lot of George's like gut reaction to things that he has. He just kind of has like an innate, I feel like, just pulse on this type of stuff. Helped me get through a lot of it. But now I'm able to share that knowledge with my team, and I'm teaching my young injectors who are only, a year and a half into the business. You have to start protecting yourself now. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that to sound like mean, or that we are, every day we come into work and we're unhappy with our clients. It's actually quite the opposite. Because of this, again, boundary that we've set up, we look forward to everyone that we see. And that's a really good feeling. That's the way it should be.
That's amazing. Exactly. I love that. And I hope, like, for any of you who are listening to what Lauren's saying and you're feeling like, that's me, I kind of let, my clients push me around a little bit. And, you're like worried, if I implement this policy, I'm going to piss all these people off. Listen to what she's saying, because, it's an uncomfortable process, but it's a necessary process. And the result is loving your business, loving your clients, showing up as a wholesome, replenished, well-rested, injector who gets to do her best work, and is sort of just biting the bullet and getting through it. And, you'll find out, like, they say, like, you want to find out who your real friends are, like, speak your truth, like, go broke,
Yeah.
It's like, right. And you see, it's sort of the same thing with your clients. It's like when you put, you put those barriers up, and then you decide, okay, who's worthy of being in my ecosystem. So it's honorable that you've done that. What do you think is, Lauren, really the most rewarding aspect of the growth that you've had?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel a lot of accomplishments with Omnia, particularly in the last year. I mean, just COVID alone, right? I mean, if anyone would have told me I was going to open up this really awesome space in Orange County during a pandemic, I would have probably laughed, because I mean, and I didn't even really think I understood what a pandemic really was.
No, none of us did.
So the fact that we've not just survived this, but we've been able to thrive, has been important to me. And I know that that's not for a lot of business owners, so I feel very, very blessed that we've been able to do that. I think at the top of my list has been building this community, which I touched on before, of clients that feel safe to come here, knowing that, one, it's very inclusive. We've had patients literally come from other med spas who have said, Lauren, nobody in there looked like me. If they didn't look like me, if they didn't have the color of my skin, how could they take care of me? And I mean, I think that's a little bit of a generalization, because I do think there are people who actually, that can very well be done, but it's nice to feel like there's a certain amount of relatability there amongst our providers and our knowledge base. I think secondly, and most importantly to me, it's been building my staff. It's a really, really great feeling to have a team. And that has not been easy. That has been single-handedly, I would say, the most challenging part of me opening up a brick and mortar and then expanding my brick and mortar in Norco. Yeah. And Kaylee, you really taught us the most about that when we had you on. I mean, I remember being like mind blown when you were explaining to me what an intrapreneur was. I was like, what? You mean there's not employees? What do you mean? I mean, it was just like,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, like, it's funny because someone sent me a note recently. I need to respond to it still, actually, it reminds me, but about I'm trying to find a unicorn, right? And it's the same person said to me before that, I submitted, I put an ad out and I got 200 applications. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how like we all know how difficult it is to find people, but we forget or we don't realize that it starts with us, right? It starts with us like knowing what our mission is, our vision, and hiring people for passion and putting out an ad where we're selling ourselves for how the amazingness that we are, right? Because if you're putting out an ad that 200 people think that they can actually apply to, it's your ad, it's not the people, but everybody feel like, this is a common challenge. And you guys have done an incredible job. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, if you're willing, your internship program too, because that's something I think that's, been so novel and rewarding for you, and fulfilled also your sort of itch for teaching.
Yeah. I mean, Kaylee, you and I have had, a lot of side conversations about this and this huge influx. It feels like particularly lately for me, I think it was for a lot of the bedside nurses who dealt with this extremely difficult time during COVID. It felt like the, emails and DMs I was getting about how to get into aesthetics has really skyrocketed in the last like year to year and a half. I do think that there's a huge misconception as well about what it means to move from bedside to aesthetics, and that the common thought process is like, oh, wow, this is so much easier. You get to this must be a huge break for you, and lately so many of my colleagues have been piping up about this too. We're not here to like be the bearers of bad news and say, oh, no, don't think this is just a cakewalk. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of like realistic perspective we're trying to shine on this, right? So I took on a nurse about a year and a half ago. She knew nothing, but she was extremely passionate about aesthetics. And I was able to just focus almost a full year of just complete education to only her, handheld her all the way. And she's soaring. I mean, we're astonished with what she's been able to do. And that's a really cool thing for me to be able to watch, which brought me to opening up the OmniAesthetic mentorship program about 6 months ago, because I wanted to be able to provide a way for a lot of these nurses to get more hands-on experience of what aesthetic nursing really is, like a full day in the life of. So it's a 2-month program. They come in, it's complimentary. I don't charge a fee for this. They are privy to, everything that we do in the office. It's 2 days a week, and they are generally 8 to 10 hour days. And while they're here, they get to, be a part of any type of larger trainings that we do, whether that's with one of, the companies that we have or a private training that we've hired. So it really gets to let them see everything, the good, bad, the ugly. Because I've had, out of the 5 mentees I've had so far, 2 of them I hired because I got to see them work in this space, which was awesome. And the other 3 were like, I don't know what I was thinking. I couldn't, which is interesting.
Yeah. But what I love about your vision, it's like, you're not like, oh, I can't find this person, I need a unicorn. You're like planning for your future. Like your, this is, you hired, I want to call her intern, but right, a mentee, right? I guess you're calling her. A year and a half she spent, right, learning, earning, modeling, implementing, right? And so it's sort of setting the expectation that, look, you're not going to go to a training course and be able to do this job. This is dynamic. There's the relationship with the patient, there's the experience, there's so much around just besides the injecting, right? Like, and obviously whether you're running a business or not, just the approach with the patient, the consultation, all of that. But it's like looking at this sort of building a pipeline, really, for aesthetic injectors, and obviously, putting the time in that you don't really have, but knowing that this is also an investment for you in identifying if there's talent out there that can be trained to do it your way, and really, create these like little mini-me's, these little mini-me Laurens.
Yeah.
So the world needs more Lauren.
Keep one Lauren. Yeah, I mean, it's really rewarding to be able to offer this. And it's like, I definitely experienced some imposter syndrome in the beginning, of like, can I do this? Am I ready for this? And then I am really ready for this. And I feel really good about what I'm able to give back. And that's a huge boost of confidence that I continue to need, right? As business owners, sometimes that gets pushed to the back because we're worrying about everyone else and everything else. And it's like, wait, I always consider myself a student. So I always want to keep learning and being better. And when I'm forced to teach and educate, I get back into a little bit of that mindset as well. So it's been really wonderful to provide.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your predictions for aesthetics. So we talked, somewhat, and I know you and I have had in our own private conversations offline about some of these things, including, the booming demand, right, in aesthetics in terms of like patient demand for procedures, but also with that comes this sort of, low barrier to entry, an influx of practices getting in. What are some of the other things, like what are some of the predictions that you have for how our industry will evolve over the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I don't think, Kaylee, we're going to be able to, I think it's going to continue to boom. And you hear about when I meet with like my reps from Allergan or for Galderma, you'll hear about the projections of what they think it's going to be. Of course, it's a biased point of view, right? I know something that there are goals that I have for the type of mark I want to leave in aesthetics. And then there's things that I want to see from some of these larger corporations to help aid in that. So I've been, speaking with Allergan in quite a few of our last meetings about Allergan providing a lot more education to these incoming nurses so that they're not just taking the weekend course and thinking that that's enough, with the type of, credibility and capital that businesses like, Galderma and Allergan, they should kind of create these mini universities, right? Where nurses can go through months of training. And then Allergan can also say, hey, Lauren, I know you were looking for a new injector. We've had this one who's been a part of our program for the last 6 months, something along those lines, for me and for my team. And I know this is kind of tossed around all the time and really lightly. Not only do I want to continue to change the idea of what aesthetics is, by really pushing and continuing to say no to the client that needs to hear no, or offering a modification to treatments that they haven't heard before. But I think it's actually mostly founded in education. I don't think there's enough education about preventative aesthetics. And I know that because I still get asked all the time, like, well, Lauren, what are you doing anything for? You're only 34, look at your skin. It looks like this, it looks like that. And I have to constantly break that down for my clients about, well, actually, I do Botox 3 or 4 times a year, and I really focus on collagen production with my skin via ABC, and the topical treatments that we use at home. And I think if people understood bone reabsorption and volume loss and the way that our facial anatomy changes through the aging process, it would start to click with them more about why we think it's absolutely appropriate for someone in their late 20s to start doing things preventatively, namely focusing on skin health. So I think that that's for us a huge goal to continue in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome and admirable. I mean, I remember the first time I got Botox, I didn't tell my friends, my family, anybody. It was no one was doing it, and I'm like, I felt like it was life-changing for me, now, and I was 28 and now it's like, oh, 28, no big deal. Like, oh, you don't get Botox, it's not like people can talk about it. But with that being said, it's that double-edged sword, right? Where it's so, widely available. It's sort of the knowledge of, take control of that narrative for yourself. And I think to your point of skin health, that's something that I think is very much overlooked. It's like I think our number one organ. Isn't that like our largest organ? I'm like, am I maybe misspeaking? But yeah, right. And so like, why aren't we learning about that? Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So this has been amazing. I love your story, Lauren, and it's been so fun working with you and seeing how you've evolved and your confidence as a CEO. And anybody too, like if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to know like a really great provider to see in Southern California, go see Lauren and her team at OmniAPL. It's not only is she an amazing injector and provider, but she's also fun to be around and talk to, and it's a beautiful location there. So Lauren, how can listeners learn more about you, follow you on your IG and all of the things, and get to know about your shrewd business as well?
Yeah, I think our Instagram is really fun. We bring the authenticity there, and we keep it entertaining for everyone while also very educational. I think our newsletters are a wonderful way too. So if people want to visit our website at omniapl.com and sign up for our monthly newsletters, that's a great way for us to connect as well. So
awesome. So I'll link those up in the show notes for you. So if you're listening to this on your phone, you can scroll down and click and go follow Lauren. And OmniAPL, it's OmniAPIEL, OmniAPL, which means at home in your skin.
Yeah, all things skin.
I love that. Lauren, thanks so much. It's been such a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. I had a great time. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, actually. Thanks.